This is a Maverick Ion MT. It's a good little car, but this one has a problem. This one has been converted from 4-wheel drive to 2-wheel drive via that snap center drive shaft. So in this video, I'm going to explain how to replace it. The whole job can be done with a small Phillips head screwdriver. There's usually one in the kit, but if you're like me, your hands will hurt, so you've probably got your own. There's an example of something you could use, or you've probably got something better. You can also use a parts tray, which you can download from the link in the description, and you'll need the replacement drive shaft. I use the metal one because it's cheaper than the plastic one. Step 1 is to remove the body and the battery retainer and store all the R-clips together so you don't lose them. Flip the car over and then undo these 4 screws. We're doing this now so that when other components are loosened on top, we don't have to flip it over and have everything fall out. Disconnect the 4 shock absorbers. They just pull off from the ball joints. You can either just take off the top, but I decided to get them out of the way and remove them completely. Disconnect the upper arms for the suspension linkages. They just pop off of ball joints as well, and they can just be moved out of the way. Now you'll need to remove these 6 fasteners. Yes, eagle-eyed viewers, I did start taking out the screws before I realised it would be better to take off the shocks and the upper arms. My learning is you're not having to learn. When you do go to remove the top deck and shock tower assembly, you will find that the power switch is still hooked up. It can just be pulled out through the top. There's a little groove that it slides into. And you can see the broken piece of the drive shaft is still stuck in the top of the shock tower upper deck assembly. For the interest of this video, I'll just put the broken piece of the drive shaft along with the spur gear and crown wheel back in the differential, or back meshing with the differential. Then you just need to very carefully lift out the rear section of the drive shaft. Don't worry if the dog bones drop out, you can put those back in afterwards. You can do this in any order, but I'm removing the crown wheel off of the front end of the drive shaft. That's the end that goes where the steering linkage and servo are. Discard the screw and then use a new screw from the new package. Take out your replacement drive shaft and keep an eye on the new screws. Please make sure that you take note of which end you are replacing the gears on for these drive shafts. They do only go one way around, but you never know. Now it's just a case of swapping the old crown wheels and gears onto the new drive shaft. Secure the crown wheels into the end of the drive shaft with the supplied screws. You might want to use some blue Loctite, but I didn't have any. Now yours might not have been broken, you might just be upgrading, but mine's broken, so now it's time to take off the crown wheel and the spur gear from this broken piece of the drive shaft by undoing the screw, discarding it, and I'll reattach it to the new drive shaft with one of the new screws. Again, you might want to use blue Loctite if you have any. Now's the part where you get to take your freshly assembled drive shaft and shoehorn it back into the car with minimal carnage. I try and put in the front end, the simple end first, and that way the end with the 2 gears on it will drop into place. Take your time to reassemble the shock tower / top brace. Make sure the steering components are seated correctly before you go putting that on. Then you can secure it in place with 4 of the long screws. Next you can attach the pinion gear cover. It snaps underneath the spur gear cover and then secures in place with 1 screw. Don't forget to attach that screw with the washer back over the motor spur gear cover. Next you'll be reassembling the upper arms and snapping them back onto the ball joints. You might find that the dog bones have become unseated and you'll need to reseat those before they'll snap back into place. A little bit annoying but not impossible to do. When this happens, I prefer to seat the dog bone into the hub first, then I can flip the wheel up and then rotate as necessary for the dog bone to seat into the drive cup. Now you can put the 4 long screws back into the chassis from underneath. Nothing should fall out now. Check that everything moves nice and freely, then you can get onto reattaching the shock absorbers. The cap goes to the top, and remember these just push onto the ball joints. Now you can slide that power switch down into its channel on the back brace, and you are reassembled.